Hi, I'm Grace Hille here at Metlife Stadium with David Deal. David, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excellent. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. So I figure we would just jump right into the questions. I know that you graduated from college with a degree in communication. Did you always know that you wanted to go into broadcasting, or did that more stem from your football career?
I think it was something that I was always definitely interested in. That was my start, was to get my communications degree, and then I actually ended up getting my master's. But when I became a New York Giant, your business is on the field, being the best football player you can be. But once you start becoming a veteran and you realize that your career isn't going to last forever, you got to start thinking outside of the box and start pursuing those things during the off season that you want to do long term when you're done playing. So for me, it was a base of what I wanted to do, being able to get that experience in college. But I think my true taste of it was when I became an NFL player and taking advantage of the internships off season to make sure that when I was ready to retire, that I did have that game plan and I was prepared to do fun things like this.
And how was the transition for you going from being on the field to talking about sports and games off the field?
Well, it's much different, obviously. When you're on the field, you're so focused only on the offensive side of the ball. When you're an analyst, you have to know offense, defense, special teams, and more than that, you have to know stats about each and every one of those players. One of the things that I've always said is that if you're doing a live television show or if you're doing a broadcast and the fan at home knows more about that player than you haven't done your homework. So that was the biggest thing. Learning the things outside of my comfort zone, like defensive coverages, like wide receiver combinations, so that I had the experience and knowledge to do it, not secondhand.
And do you think that being a former NFL player gave you a little bit of an advantage when it came to interviewing people and doing broadcasting, since you had been on the other side of it? You knew how they felt, you knew what it was like for them?
I think that it gave me an advantage to get into the room, but from there, it's what you do with it. We've seen time and time again, whether it's NFL players, Major League Baseball players, that were great at their sport, but didn't transition well into going on TV and being a broadcaster because of the amount of homework that goes into it. It's not something that you can just take those experiences and translate it in. You have to take your experiences from what you've learned as a player, translating by the knowledge of what's taking place currently. And that's one of the things that was very difficult. So I think that it was something that got me in the door, but my hard work, my persistence, and doing all those internships and the comfort of being in front of the TV, that was more beneficial than just being the player.
Now you're talking about your internships. I believe that it was John Madden who you interned
Yes.
with. How was that?
It was one of the most unbelievable experiences I've ever had in my life. And going back to being a football player and not knowing those certain things of positions, the first thing he had me do was write up defensive back coverages because I said I knew him. He knew I was an offensive line. And the minute that he established that I was serious and that I did my homework, then he was really willing to take me on as part of an internship. But if I didn't do those things, once again, going back, being a football player gets you in the door, but doing your homework and being prepared outweighs all of that.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you so much for joining me. I had a great time. I hope that you did too. Now back to you in the studio. I'm Grace Hille.